everyone. Welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers, seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
So I just got back from an epic adventure with my 13-year-old daughter.
I know. I can't wait to hear about it.
So she wanted to, for a couple of years, she's wanted to like drive from Minneapolis to Salt Lake City and then go tour like all the national parks that are kind of like near-ish Salt Lake City or in Utah there, in southern Utah.
Okay. Did you say for a couple of years she's wanted to do this?
Yeah. So since she's been like 10, every summer she's like, "Can we drive to Salt Lake City?" And I'm like, there's a few years where it's like, yeah, I don't know, maybe. But then this year I got super serious about it. I'm like, yep, let's figure that out. You've been wanting to do this for a while, so like, let's figure it out. Well, this spring I sat down to like actually figure out how you would get there.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out like Salt Lake City is like 20 hours of driving away from Minnesota. Yeah. And then it's like another like 4 or 5 hours down to the, Zion and Bryce and all of those national parks.
Yeah.
So what we did instead is we flew to Salt Lake City and rented a car, and we did they call it like the Big Five Loop, which is Arches, Canyonlands, Capitol Reef, Bryce, and Zion national parks. We put in, so that's 5 parks. We did it in 5 days.
Is that ridiculous that you did it in 5 days, or is that a good number?
No. Yep. No, it was ridiculous. No, it was ridiculous. We put on 1,200 miles on a rental car.
Oh my gosh. Can I just get a little visual here? Like, were you in a big car, a little car?
No, I don't know. We had just like a little crossover SUV thing.
Okay. And were you singing or were you eating snacks? Like, what were you doing all this time in this car?
Well, so each of the parks is just like a couple hours away from each other. So, we flew into Salt Lake and we drove to Moab.
Okay.
And we spent the night in Moab. And then the next day we explored Arches.
Okay.
And then we went to bed. And then, because Arches and Canyonlands are kind of like by each other, then we explored Canyonland, and then the next day we drove to the next park that evening. And then got up the next morning, explored the next park, and then drove to the next park the next evening. So it was like, it's like every evening we were driving, and every day we were exploring park. So that's
actually so cool.
It totally worked out. And I only did that kind of by accident because I'm like, I don't have a like 3-week chunk of time to like vacation around Utah, so we got to get it done in a week.
Is that American or what? I need to hurry up and relax in a week. I can't do it any longer. It's either that or nothing.
Just to be very clear, this was not relaxing. The awesome part about it was it's just the kind of, as everyone probably gathers, it's just the kind of adventure vacation that's right up my alley, right?
Yes. And obviously Abby's,
which was awesome. Like, so it was the first time where it was just her and I. And she, like, it was kind of surprising to me that she had the same amount of like drive to go do these things as I did.
That's shocking, actually.
It's like every morning she's like up at 7 and she's like, all right, let's go. And I'm like, where's my coffee? And then we would hike all day, and then we'd plan the next
And you were camping. You were camping.
Yeah, we had we were camping. Except there was one night where we totally chickened out and got a hotel room because it was like 105 degrees out, and we were just like totally wrecked.
You two would end up like 2 pieces of bacon on the desert floor.
So it was so fun. And, as you and I were kind of like thinking about it, it's like these things you do with your kids
Yeah.
have a really lasting impact.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's why I wanted you to tell your story, because I don't think we as parents or people that influence children, aunts or uncles or whatever, I don't think we recognize the absolute value and longevity of these kinds of experiences with our kids. I think creating okay, do you think you'll go on another trip with her?
Yep.
Exactly.
For sure.
And I bet you loved it so much that you'll try and do it somewhat regularly, like once a year.
Yeah.
Once a summer.
So with our oldest, with Ethan,
Yeah.
I don't know how long ago it was. It's maybe even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
One of my buddies invited us to go along with them to the Boundary Waters. Right? And Ethan, again, he must have been like 12, 13, same age as Abby. And so I guess it wasn't quite 10 years ago. But anyway, we went on this Boundary Waters trip together, and he and I liked it so much that we have gone back every single year. It's like we don't even ask if we're going to the Boundary Waters. It's just like a given that
it's like, when
in the
is
summer.
it?
Yeah,
Not
when
if.
is it? Yeah. Yeah. So that kind of routine is really fun to build.
Yeah, it is. And, as an adult, we think it's really fun to build, but the lasting stuff that that is created with our kids is amazing. Like, so in our situation, our son Mitchell is an avid angler. I mean, his mind is fishing. He loves it. He's got an Etsy account for building fly tie. He ties flies. And he's just into fishing so much. When he was little, he used to come find me after dinner, and he would say, "Mom, can you take me fishing at Little Long?" And so we had this habit. I would grab a camp chair. He would get his fishing stuff. I'd bring a book. I'd sit on the end of the dock while he was just casting. And while I did not think we were creating a habit or a memory, I was just thinking, he really wants to fish, and if I don't drive him, he can't. That's what I was thinking. You know, like, it's really fun for me to watch him do something he loves so much. That place is such a special place for both of us. So much so that now, I mean, he's, 26 years old almost. And he had his graduation photos taken for high school there.
Oh, wow.
That same dock, and just, and he will bring that up occasionally. It's like, I want to go fishing with my mama. And then I started fishing with him more as he got older. But that's such a lasting, amazing memory. Yeah. Being a part of something that was important to him and finding the time and the consistency to be part of it with him.
Yeah. And, as I think about it, there's lots of these little habits with kids and I mean, in all relationships, but the ones with like the kids, I think are really like impactful. Like, and we're talking about some kind of big things like big trips or routine trips or things. The other little habit I have with Abby is like when she was younger, she never wanted like a high five or a fist bump or anything sort of like cheery like that. I don't know why.
She's you.
I was like, come on.
God,
yeah, right?
She's so you. Don't acknowledge it. Just keep moving.
So what we started doing was just like touching our index fingers, like very subtly. It's like the most subtle little like tap.
Introvert. It's the introverted high five.
It's the introverted high five. It's one finger. It's very subtle. It's low. Secret. But it's like our little secret. It's almost like our little secret handshake.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
And so that's like another one of those little habits that we have together, that we share together, that I think like really strengthens like our relationship.
Right. And the thing is this. So like, I just think back to when I was a kid, and I had I had two grandpas that were in my life, and they were such different guys. Like, one was a minister, and he was just so kind of regal, not his personality, but just in how he carried himself. He just had such a dignified, he was just so dignified. And during the week, he worked at a technical college and would sell students on getting into this tech program. So he worked full-time doing that, and he was an ordained minister who had a full church life his whole adult. He until he retired at 83 or whatever it was, 82. But I loved being with him when he would go to this school. So in the summer, I would be able to go to stay with them, and I would drive into Minneapolis. They lived in southern Minnesota. He would drive to Minneapolis every single day, and I would be able to sit with him in his office, and I had all these little fun routines while he worked, and then we always went for lunch. And we went to, wait for it, Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips. Oh my gosh.
I don't even remember that restaurant.
I know. I'm totally dating myself. But the thing is this, he made an effort and he loved it. He loved when I got to sit in his office with him. And by the way, he chain smoked. It was just like, oh my God. But I'd get to do all these little things that were office related, at 8, 9, 10 years old that really weren't, but he would pay me a penny per brochure to put brochures together for the school. Like all that stuff, it made such a good, fond memory of me being able to spend time with him.
Yeah.
Just feeling important.
Yeah.
In his life to do that.
Yeah, and that you got to do it kind of, I guess, routinely, right? Like over and over.
Yeah, every summer, every single summer. And I've done that too, like with our daughter, Megan. She and I have always done like an airplane trip together. So from the time she was an infant, I had a girlfriend that's husband worked for UPS, and we would travel all around the country at least once a year to visit their family. And Megan and I had this little fun routine of being able to travel together like that. And we recently went to Europe together. And it's just the feeling of it is not your standard, hey, we're getting to go on this fun trip, isn't it? It's great. And isn't it great? It's way deeper than that.
Yeah.
It's being able to connect with each other on a really long-standing, habitual way that started when she was really little.
Yeah, that's really cool. Abby and I used to, when I would drop her off at at preschool, I would always drop her off at preschool on my way to work. Yeah. Back in the day when people went to work or to an office, she and I had like the same playlist. We'd play like the exact same 4 songs. On the way to preschool. So we knew them by heart. We knew exactly, I knew exactly when we hit this certain stoplight, I knew exactly when we were in the playlist. It's the same. But it's funny how sometimes that routineness brings such comfort.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it sounds boring. Really, for 2 years you listen to the same playlist over and over. Yep, every single day. But it's just something about it brought comfort.
Yeah. I think that as parents, especially when you have younger kids, I feel like it's hard to be in the moment because you're so busy trying to get through the moment. You're just trying to get all your stuff done, make sure they have all what they need, and you get into this mode of operation where you're skimming off the top. You're not really emotionally noticing or connecting. And then it used to be where the kids didn't have anything else except you. Now they've got things to keep them occupied and disconnected from you. I remember when our kids were teenagers, parents and parent classes would always say, if you want to talk to your sons, do it when you're driving in the car.
Yep.
Because you don't have direct eye contact. You're looking around. There's other things to look at. It's not so intense for them. But now, unless you're really intentional about that, they're completely checked out too.
Yeah, right. They're looking at their phones or listening to music in their AirPods or whatever.
Yeah. So I just think, and this is not to be judgmental or to give people a hard time. I just think it's really important to remember the value of consistent connection with our kids, the true value of it. And it feels so good to do it for us, but the lasting connection that it creates for children as they're forming their adult beliefs. Our daughter's married now, and she lives in the North Loop, and we don't get to see her as much as we used to, which is all fine and wonderful and normal. And she still craves the one-on-one time with her parents and getting to do some of the same things that she's always appreciated and seeing her value that in her life and making efforts to do that with her new husband and in her life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always the things you do with your kids, we as adults feel it, the things that we did with our parents, we tend to do with our kids, right? So it's kind of you talk about that cycle, that behavioral cycle from parent from generation to generation, we can be like, we can change it, right? We can be more purposeful about how we're doing that stuff with our kids.
Yeah. Another thing we used to do is like reading. Like you're right. It doesn't have to be. It's not about money or status or what going out and creating special memories. It's simply being aware of the memories that you are making right now. It's simply being aware of what the habits are of your family culture, whatever they are.
Yeah.
Right. Our kids used to absolutely love every single night go and get a pile of books, each one of them, and I'd get a pile of books, and we would just lay down on the bed and we would all just look at books. And it was so much fun. And I did that in the moment. I was doing it to get them to settle down a little bit so that they could just go to bed and have had a chance to be more mellow.
Yeah.
However, the long-term effect of that was how much they enjoyed the experience. And, remember when you used to read the Treehouse books, Mom? Remember when you used to do this? And a lot of the stuff I don't even remember right now because I was in my head in those moments just trying to get stuff done.
Yeah, you're like blocking and tackling with young kids, right? It's
exactly.
hard to remember.
Yeah, exactly. And they bring stuff up now in their 20s, and I was like, no, I don't remember that.
Yeah. It's funny how, even when I think back to my childhood, like, my mom loves when I forget that we did big things. So
Mrs. Parker, I got you.
She'll be like, remember when we went to Disney World? I'm like, no. So this could be a me thing or a guy thing. I don't know. But sometimes like it's like when there's a big event that happens, it's fun. Everyone enjoys it in the moment, but it doesn't, the memory of it kind of maybe fades pretty quickly. What's funny is that, and we put a lot of effort into these like big family events. Agree. We're gonna go big vacation, blah blah blah, right? But a lot of the real lasting memories are the much plainer but more routine things that happened. In childhood, right?
Yeah.
Like frankly, I have more memories as a child of just going to my grandparents' cabin, which was a routine weekend thing that we did, than like the big, summer trip we took here or there, right?
Right. Yeah. Yep. Do you know what's so funny? We went and had a beer with a buddy of ours this week, and he's like 76, 77 years old. And we started riffing on all the fun things we did as little kids and how different it is now. And it's like, you were responsible for creating your own environments when you were little most of the time. And we just, like, as a side note, we just started riffing on the different games that we played as kids. Oh my gosh, we were laughing so hard. Pom Pom Pull Away. Do you remember that game? You're going to say no.
I didn't play that game.
How about Red Rover, send Timmy over,
yep, played
or whatever.
That game.
Kick the can.
Of course, kick the can.
Okay, but that's a night games.
Yep.
Okay. But we just started talking about all that and how fun that was, and it was. You always knew you were in trouble when the door would open and it was just dark, and you were supposed to be home. Quote by dark.
Yep.
My mom had a whistle that would stop traffic, and the entire neighborhood would stop moving and go, "Oh, Missy, you got to get home. Your mom just whistled."
Right. The street lights go on. That means you're in trouble.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think it's, I don't know what made me start reflecting on this. Actually, no, I know what did. The fact that you were getting back from this trip. And I always appreciate how you have been very intentional, and so have I, but trying to do important things with your kids while you have them that are within their scope of their age, that is meaningful, that even if you're trying to pass down something that you learned, like I remember when you were doing your water skiing, when you were teaching the kids how to water skiing, you had that pole, that side pole that you had stuck on your boat so that they could have something to hang on to.
Yep.
Like stuff like that, because you valued that, because you got to learn how to do that when you were young.
Yeah. And those are some of the fun, like kind of routine things that go on over a long period of time, right? Like going out onto the lake and skiing or tubing or messing around on the lake, right?
Yeah.
Those are things that bring me a lot of joy, but the kids like it, and it's kind of like when we say, hey, we're going to the lake, everyone just kind of knows and gets in line and
jumps in and does their thing.
Yep.
I think too, like the whole point of this conversation is really not for people to start to feel any stress about creating these things. I would actually encourage people to just sit and recognize what their things already are, because every family has those. Every family has them, and it's just, are you really aware of the value of what those are?
Yeah.
You know, and are you capturing every chance that you can? Because it goes so fast.
Yeah. It sure does. Yeah, I kind of thinking it's like when the kids are really little, you do have some like sort of routines, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a way to help, especially like really young kids, maybe transition, right? You do the same thing to get from the house to the car, from the car.
Right.
You know?
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Same song, same song. But once they get a little bit more independent, that fades a little bit because...
Yes, those physical, easy. Yes.
And so I think like my reflection on it would be just keep some of that routine up.
Yeah.
Because it's fun to do, and it really does, to me, build like stronger relationships. And we should actually have another podcast about doing that as adults. Like how does routine help your adult relationships? Because you know, frankly, like we won't talk about that right now, but like when you get out of routine with somebody, you can tell that your relationship
is out of sync.
It's out of sync. You kind of like there's more distance between you, right? And that doesn't mean you're not still friends, but adult relationships kind of ebb and flow a lot.
Yeah, but you know what?
And it's
I think
around the
kid ones
routine
do too.
I think they do too, and I think it's around this routineness, like how routinely do you see each other? How routinely do you eat together? How routinely do you do things? So if
or even just talk,
so
on the phone,
if you want to like
they don't live there,
start kind of building a stronger relationship, I think that getting into some of these, even just start with very small habits, is a really great way to strengthen a relationship.
And you know what I would add to that with the kid piece is, as kids, because kids grow and they emotionally are so much more mature than we recognize. And I think that as those habits, they outgrow some of the family habits that you've always had. I think there's a certain loss that goes along with that. I think there are times where we say to ourselves, oh my gosh, the thing that I always used to do to feel like my kid was listening, or I could hear my kid, or I don't feel like those are there anymore. And there's a loss that can be associated with that. But I would say is, don't be afraid to create new ones. Don't be afraid to be open to this idea that, oh, actually that worked really well for 12 years or 18 years and now it doesn't work at all. And what can I do instead?
Yep.
Or even get into the mindset of asking them, like, what kind of new routines, or are there things that we can still do? Because it's so important to me that I'm still connecting with you.
Yep.
Just sharing that piece, I think, is hugely, vastly helpful.
Yep. All right. So I'm going to come up with a list for new habits for each one of my kids.
Oh, anyway, I'm so pleased you had fun with Abby. What a great trip. I'm going to do that trip now. I actually wrote down those parks. Well, I'm sure I'll lose the sheet of paper.
I'll give you my very difficult itinerary. It's a vacation on hard mode. Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.